Hello, I'm live. It is still Tuesday, the 28th of July 2020, and I'm reading chapter 21, The Next Millennium, of the book The Only Planet of Choice, Essential Briefings from Deep Space. Pansiva Phyllis V. Schleger. My dog is in the garden, so. In May 1994, whilst at a meeting with our publisher, Alec Bartholomew of Gateway Books, he suggested that this revised edition would provide an opportunity to update The Only Planet of Choice with information for the next millennium. Gateway had received many requests asking for information. Let me just see whether... No, I should put it on loud, you see, because I've heard. Gateway had received many requests asking for more information. It appears that many mediums, channels and psychics have been giving conflicting prophecies and predictions about the changes that are going to take place in the coming century. Needless to say, Alec's suggestion was valid and timely. Amongst other subjects, this chapter sets out a transformational arena that now seems to be the focus of the Council of Nine's attention, and it concerns the relationship between the Celtic nations and the English. While parts of this chapter may be uncomfortable reading for some of us who live in the British Isles, we should be courageous and realize that the time to start on these transformational processes is already here. We cannot wait until the year 2000. We are on the threshold of the next century. Hopefully what Tom and the Council of Nine have to say will provide us with some insights and gentleness of a new way of life. I had the privilege of sitting with Tom for these communications, and consequently I have been able to emphasize certain words and indicate the pauses because I was there. No amount of writing, however, would adequately convey the very special energy that was present or the multi-level communicating that went on. I do not know if this is the usual experience, but while Tom was talking, ideas and complementary words and images were being given to me telepathically, which has led to a rather different style of writing than the preceding communications, at which I was not present. Irene. Greetings, Tom, and to the Council of Nine. While we would like to ask you some questions concerning the next millennium, do you have anything that you would like to say to us first? Tom, the Council has asked that I convey to you that we understand the difficulty by removing self from self in your world of density and of propensity for self. For the past 3 decades there has been interest in self, and for self-interest and interest in decadence. It is now time to let go of the past 3 decades of decadence before moving into a new transformational arena. And as you know, any time that there is a forward movement, the old entraps and strangles like that of the octopi. They occupy you. Is that right? Irene, yes, we understand what you mean. Tom, and they also attempt to hold tightly to systems of belief, and the necessity for change is then covered in darkness. We would wish you to understand this. In the past, we had explained the importance of the nation of Israel as a microcosm of the macrocosm. Now, in the nation of England, that is considered as the most civilized of all nations, what is of the greatest importance is the settlement of that is the Celt, with that of the Anglo. For only in the settlement of that difficulty can we move forward in correctness. Consider this. This nation of England, in its considerable acceptance of its civility, also creates the most barbaric weaponry because of the repression of who it is. Therefore, it is important to include the English in your meditations, for until this problem is resolved, it is very difficult for the rest of the world to move forward, for they look to this of the civility, not servility, with a C, not an ocean. You understand? Irene, yes. Tom, yes. Then there is a great opening, for we may bring the brothers of Abraham together. Irene, yes. Tom, there's no growth without struggle, is there? Mickey, no, there is not. Tom, There's no strength without struggle on your world, is there? If you would lie upon your bed and not move, there would be weakness. Is that true? Irene, yes. If you lifted weighted things, there would be strength. Is that true? Irene, yes. Tom, therefore, you are in strugglement. Irene, yes, thank you for that. We really appreciate it. Tom, in the nation of England, the civility stops the truthfulness. What is needed is courageous breaking through that breakdown in correctness, for do they not of the nation of England tend to put everything under the carpet? Mary, yes. Tom, we're sorry, Mary, for it is your nation too. Mary, I accept what you say. I understand it. I think that it is so, and I am sorry that it is so. Tom, it is simply because the male energy has ruled for dominant times, and it is feeling threatened now, for it knows that it must have equality with the female, or it cannot survive. All the sources of power comes from the female. By controlling the female, keeping her in bondage and in servitude, he can then own that power. Do you know that? Irene, yes. It is no different from what the Chinese have always attempted to do with the Tibetans. Tom, exactly. Now that the time has come for equality, those of the male genitalness are frantically trying to rearrange their molecules in all of their energy fields and wanting to maintain in their relationship that is of the god. Think about this. Of all the nations upon your planet, the nation of England has what you call significant corruptions of sexuality within its government. Is that not so? Mary, yes it does. Tom, the male power knows that it only maintains its power by taking the energy power from the female. It believes that instead of it being partners, it is total control. From another viewpoint, it knows innately that in the act of copulation, it is returned to the source. Yes? Irene and Mary, yes. Tom, very complexional, those of the nation of England in your shuttered minds. Mary, this recalls a conversation which was held previously, chapter 10, concerning the preparation of this planet for humankind. You had said that the others were trying to cut the ley lines when they were being prepared, and that they had succeeded with a serpent. I feel that is a dual reply, for in cutting the serpent, also known as the Michael and Mary line in England, they then managed to create the imbalance of power in this country, and this affects the entire planet. The energy is now being brought back into balance. So the serpent not only refers to the ley line, but also to the male-female relationship as depicted in the word book, which is the Bible. Tom, that is correct and of importance. Mary, so if the nation of England manages to correct this male-female balance, then the energy of this country, the way it spreads out through the planet, via the serpent that goes across England and all around the globe, but only around the northern latitude, which was the area of the original seedings of humankind, is this how the energy balances that male-female power throughout the planet? Tom, yes, for it sits at the top, does it not? Mary, yes, it balances it in the civilized world, for in the society that they would consider as primitive, in spite of appearances, this connection is understood. We pray that all extremities be brought into balance, be brought to consider what it has brought forth. If you understand the singular importance of this time, there is one movement forward and another that is trapped, so that the forward movement is blocked. It is as if there is this division between that is and that wishes not to be. There is a churning in the oceans of your lives on planet Earth that the octopi wishes to occupy. Do you understand? Mary and Irene, yes, we understand. Tom, Council has said that I must stop asking if you understand, for you're not children, is that not so? Now, I must, yes. Therefore, the octopi attempts to occupy by strangulation of thinking and clarity. The way forward is across the threshold, and in that threshold is the occupier of your planet at this time. What does one now do to disentangle on your planet Earth? You could gently remove the tanglements, but if they are strong and fierce, they will only hold stronger, will they not? Irene, yes, they will. Tom, if you would wish to axe them off, you might axe yourself off. Is that not so? Irene, yes, it is. Tom, you are in a quandary. Irene, yes, thank you so much. Tom, you must be flexible in time. Do you understand? Mary, yes, because if we become rigid in our beingness, then it is back to the same problem, and we break flexibility. We break flexibility of crystal understanding. Tom, yes. Irene, is this a new bottleneck of the souls? Tom, it is more than that. It is a strangulation, and in the strangulation there is no releasement. Mary, so, relating this to the preceding conversations, that means that as the English don't express themselves fully, and this nation represents this particular aspect of strangulation on our planet, if we keep expressing ourselves in truth and integrity, that this will also help to eliminate the strangulation. Tom, it is vital. You are correct, yes. It is advisable to keep bringing forth gently to the males of this nation of England the importance of releasing the suppressed, repressed, and that they find within themselves the courage to bring it out, to view it properly. When it is repressed, then it manifests in your male-females inversions. Mary, I was going to ask you if the situation in Israel now in May 1994 and also the recent elections in South Africa was a reflection of some resolution in that previous aspect of bottlenecking referred to in earlier years. Tom, it is the beginning. However, that does not mean that there will be not an attempt at strangulation, but you see, when it is verbalized, when it is written, then the crystallization begins to become fluid. That is of great importance. What must be recognized by the nation of England is that rigidity. We speak now to those that your society would call the ordinary people. We speak now to those who are your ordinary person. We speak now to those that your society would call the normals. They must begin to change their ability to think for themselves and not permit the government and municipalities to control them in their thinking concerning these two nations of Celt and Anglo. It is of vital importance that they understand that they have created a bigger tragedy in the name of the Creator. For the English identify themselves as civilized. What they do not understand is that they identify all others as non-civilized. Therefore, they do not give the opportunity for growth to the Celt or to any other. Think upon this. What is this Anglo nation? It has a triangle of Celts, does it not? Both answer yes. Mary, symbolically, the Celtic lands are to be left up on the left-hand side, and the Anglos live to the right-hand side of our island, which reflects the intuitive process as against the rigid intellectual processes. And the melding of these two aspects would create a balance throughout the planet, as we said before. So is that why the crop circles are mostly in a triangular area in the center of this particular nation? Has it been to start this process? Tom, it is a movement, an awakening of asking why? Why in this nation of England is there this stuckness, saying that is the way we've always done it? We ask how many years does it take before being able to say, why is there's something new now? Mary, there are groups of people who walk the country's ley lines and try to get these energies balanced. Many are very linked to the Arthurian legends, and it occurred to me after our conversation that the symbolism of the word Excalibur is that of balance. Excalibre. Tom, that is a form of correctness. It is calibration. Mary, thinking further of this nation's landmarks, can you tell us anything about Stonehenge that we don't have in the traditional guidebooks? Tom, what do you have in the traditional guidebooks about pyramids? Also, all of animal pictorials were points of reference for those of the sons of God, you understand? We then went on to ask if Tom had any special message for the USA. Tom, what is important in that vast arena of the nation of the United States is to bring forth the awareness to the youth of the power of their thinking. and the determination to remove from their nation this violence, corruption and destruction of the planet of beauty, the paradise of earth. It is important for the youth to insist upon their elders that they will not permit the destruction. It is important for the youth also to understand that being bombarded by violence via mass media implants a violence that is then out of their control. It is important for the youth to join together with their elders in going forward in meditation, in love and in joy. It is important for the youth to understand that it is joyful to be joyful, and not at the cost of another. Also, in that vast continent, if they might set up 3 meditators, so that there be 4 corners, creating 12 people meditating, perhaps they can start, how do you say then, pen pals. The following day we continued with our questions. Irene, I would like to ask the Council and yourself to clarify what is going to happen as we move into the next millennium. As you know, there have been endless questions as to how the changes are going to take place for humankind. Is it going to be internal, psychological, spiritual, geographical? What are the changes that we can look forward to as we get closer to the changing of the millennium? The second part of that question is, how best can humankind prepare themselves? Tom, it is in this manner. Humankind holds within itself the means of forwardness. Also, it holds within itself the direction. Listen in carefulness, with openness and understanding to this. The next 1,000 years are those of the years of the mind, energies of the mind, which will be brought to understanding of the true power of what is created by a thought form, a visualization or a strong desire formed of it. It is in this manner there has been many predictions which bring a predictilation. Is that correctness? I mean, no, but it's a new word. Tom, yes? What I meant to say was, in this method, in the past many upon your planet have made predictionals, which have created a predilectional. Irene, yes, very good. Tom, and what they have done by programming humankind, in truth, they have actually created that event. Irene, yes. Now, there are several areas that those who create these events need to observe and look upon within themselves. Those who still exist, for those you know, some of those have now transitionalized. It is like this. They have either been predicting from sources surrounding planet Earth, or sources of civilizations that do not have all knowledge, nor a doorway to all knowledge, or even that of a window. What they are seeing is like looking upon Earth and seeing the different paths and routes that humankind may take at any given time in the historical aspect of humankind. What they are also seeing is at times, if humankind is moving in a direction that appears to be confrontational, they then believe that it is a given, ordained, when that is not true. For humankind has within it the ability to bring all changes within its own parameters, and to bring all peace within. Also there are those of the others, the opposition, the dark ones, that have in a form corrupted information in order to create diversion and anxiety, in making situations of chaoticness. Now again we say this, there are those upon your planet Earth who did not believe that in their time of existence upon Earth there was the possibility of East and West in communion. Is that not so? Irene, yes. Tom, what did not happen by chance? For many, with their visualization, their prayers, and their action, brought that into being. For it also takes action. You understand? Irene, yes. Tom, most humankind would believe that that barrier, that wall, the Berlin Wall, came down suddenly in one day. It took much time to bring it to that. In the same manner as the changing of the situation in South Africa. It took much effort from many white workers. Also, as you see what has happened with the nations of Israel and Ishmael, there are those workers who are attempting to disrupt him, to bring them down. Therefore, it is held within the faculties of humankind to bring to themselves what it is that they wish. Humankind does not want to hear this, for it is not more dramatic for them to feel that it is out of their control, and that all what will happen, that everything is predestined. Then there are those who believe that the planet must be purified and cleansed of the humankind, who are not worthy of it, in their opinion. This then creates another energy of negativity, and those who have the audacity to believe that their predictions are correct and rightful have created a great difficulty, not only for themselves, but for Earth. They have given their power to another energy, you understand? Irene, yes. Mary, there are a growing number of people around the world that are interested in the ascension philosophy. Can you tell me where that information comes from, and then whether there is any truth in the concept that a few chosen ones will help the planet in its evolution or coming back into balance after what they term chaos? Tom, we explain to you again about those civilizations that do not have full information and then attempt to create an elitism amongst those of humankind in order to give them the feeling of specialness and uniqueness. In that way they keep them blind to other realities. At times, or in some instances, some of those sub-civilizations believe that they have the truth. It is not complete, and they do not understand. When they speak of the ascension, it refers to the energy field, creating the means for planet Earth to be a light space vehicle in upward movement. It does not mean that humankind will ascend, nor that a portion of them will ascend. It is also of importance to understand that the fear of destruction keeps the planet and humankind in bondage and serves no useful purpose. It only creates a lack of balance for the planet, an imbalance and depression in humankind. We speak to all of humankind who live in this concept of destruction when we say that you hold within you totally and completely the ability to stop the devastation, the destruction of your planet Earth. If you are someone who wishes to be right at all times, and in your error of thinking believe that your planet will be destroyed, then you take the responsibility of creating the destruction. And if we were in your place, we would be in great caution, very careful, for you do not know what you bring upon yourself. Mary, thank you. So just to clarify a little, these sub-civilizations are not from the others then. They are just a bit confused. Is that correct? Tom. And sitting on the fence, some of them. Do you understand what that means? Mary, yes, thank you very much. That is most helpful. Tom, therefore we say, take hold of your own life, your own planet. Take time for reflection. Take time for prayer. Take time for action. Each be responsible in a small way, and your planet will come to a peace. As you would feel that it has turned into chaoticness, it can also turn into joyfulness. And it is a natural situation at times for there to be small eruptions and conflict, for there are evolved souls and those that are new souls without understanding totality. But that does not mean your planet is heading for total destruction. There is in your world a belief that there is 1,000 years of reign, is there not? Irene, yes, the Bible, Revelation chapter 20, verse 4-7. Tom, it is up to you and you are the conditions when that goes into effect. It is meant for your next 1,000 years, and there will not be a sudden, but a gradual change with acceleration, for humankind must now take a stand for living upon planet Earth. You hold this planet completely and totally. If you wish to give your powers to those who would destroy it, remember that you destroy yourself. Also remember this, it is true, there is not death, though there are some who say, it does not matter, for there is no death. But it does matter, for if you cut off a life before it was meant to, if you cut off from your own life by that which is not correct, by incorrect thinking, action, or otherwise, then your choice and that of others has not been fulfilled, and there is a that you will extract from yourself, and you might not like what it is due. Is it not better to fulfill what you have chosen for this planet? Earth can be in greatness, for each humankind is a potentialness of greatness. Do not be afraid of that or the responsibility, for it will bring to you great self-respect and great joy. Do not permit others to own your soul. Move forward, and we are with you. Did we answer your question? Is there any clarification? Irene, one question that I have concerns this whole notion of technological revolution and computers. You were talking about the next age of humankind being the age of the mind. How will that interact with what's happening now, with our society becoming so completely computer-orientated? Are there things that one needs to be aware of? Tom, what is important to understand is this. Remember, we have said that your Earth is the planet of the physical and the spiritual. Humankind has also been burdened with laborious means of working, and that has held some in bondage. Is that not so? Irene, yes. So in the millennium of the mind, the balance would be a millennium of technology. Is that not correct? Therefore, is that not a gratefulness? For then humankind has freedom to fulfill its promise to itself. So the millennium of technology frees us from the laborious work of the past. However, it also frees us in terms of our pursuit of the spiritual. Tom, that is correct. And that's the thing we mustn't forget as we become obsessed with our newfound toys. Tom, that is absolute. Do not get out of bounds. As that of the mind begins to understand its power, eventually that of the technology will be merged. But you must not lose sight of the spiritual aspect and the balance. Otherwise, a corruption will set in. Again, this chapter is so vital that Phyllis, who rarely writes commentary on the transmission, has felt the need to add these words of clarity, because this was put in after. This is in addition to the original book, as far as I understand. For over 20 years, Tom has consistently reiterated that if the Messiah, Christ consciousness, comes in its own time, it would mean some catastrophic upheaval. But if the Messiah, Christ consciousness, comes with acceleration, planet Earth, including mankind, will be transformed. What does Tom mean by this, and how does it work? Tom and the Council of Nine have explained that if the Messiah, Christ consciousness, comes in its own time, it would mean that the Earth and mankind are in such great despair and agony that they are crying out for help. Only then can outside influences, such as the Creator or other civilizations, take action to help us. Acceleration of the Messiah, Christ consciousness, means that if there will be enough consciously aware humans working diligently to bring about change on all levels, governments, education, prayer, meditation, environmental issues, taking responsibility and action, then humankind and planet Earth can begin the transformational process that Tom has referred to throughout his communications. In our lifetime, we are beginning to see all of this happening in pockets around the world. Our thoughts and actions are means of bringing about transformation for the coming millennium. Today, science has begun to prove and legitimize the powers of the mind, especially in the area of health. We could expand this concept and consider the possibilities that would come about by using this creative energy within us to accelerate the Messiah Christ consciousness. It is worth a try. Just what if? The choice is yours. There are some additional chapters which I will read as well, but this finishes the Planet of Choice. This was actually even an addition, chapter 21, the next millennium, which they added because most of this is between the 70s and 80s. This one is 94, and the briefings are to follow, and I upload it on my channel. Have a good Tuesday. Finished.